All right, we're looking at the Kirk Motors case study now. Let's scroll down and start reading the question first, as always. Question 1. Kirk Motors is likely to experience some benefits by investing in McGill instead of acquiring McGill. Which of the following is most likely an advantage of equity investment? We've got A, less capital is required in an equity investment compared to an acquisition. B, Kirk Motors will have more control over McGill. Or C, Kirk Motors can prevent McGill from taking actions that are against its interest. So let's scroll up and start reading. Kirk Motors is an automobile manufacturer with a solid customer base, but its sales volumes have been reducing over the past 5 years. This is due to public concern over their cars' safety and emissions their vehicles generate. Following a survey by the Environmental Authority conducted 2 years ago, it was established that Kirk's vehicles produce 3 times CO2 emissions than all its competitors. Lawmakers decided to pass a law that would cap CO2 emissions at the manufacturing stage. One of the statutes requires all automobile manufacturers to have at least 10% electric and hybrid vehicles in their product line annually. The company's board of directors also mentioned that it would change its business model to ensure its customers' safety and the environment's preservation. The strategy was also involve having a safety and inspection department set up. At the end of 2016, Kirk made the following announcement. Kirk Motors today announces that it signed and closed a $1.8 billion investment in and strategic partnership in McGill Limited, a lithium-ion battery manufacturer. So it looks like we're getting to what we're looking at for our question here. The investment represents a 30% interest in McGill's equity, valuing the company at $6 billion on an enterprise value basis. Part of the strategic partnership. So it looks like we've got all the information we need. So let's scroll down and look at the question again. I'm not sure there's really too much information in the reading that is important for the question, but the context is helpful. So which of the following is most likely an advantage of an equity investment? A, less capital is required in an equity investment compared to an acquisition. So that sounds like it's correct. So if we scroll up here, they were able to purchase 30% interest by shelling out $1.8 billion. If they wanted to acquire the whole company, they would have had to put up $6 billion. So it's certainly less capital required. B, Kirk Motors will have more control over McGill. This is not correct. If they wanted to have more control, then they would have needed to acquire the whole company. If they're just making an investment, it looks like McGill still has full operating ability. And then lastly, C, Kirk Motors can prevent McGill from taking actions that are against its interests. This is kind of follows along similar lines as answer B. They won't have control over that because they're just investors. So we'll go with A, less capital required. Question 2, other than an equity investment, which of the following is the best action Kirk Motors could take concerning McGill Limited? Spin-off, restructuring, or an acquisition? So let's go back up and read a little bit more. So we left off here. We'll start reading at this paragraph. Part of the strategic partnership allows McGill to access Kirk Motors' electric vehicle research center to carry out battery tests, and McGill will sell the battery exclusively to Kirk Motors. The transaction will be financed by debt from a financial institution at an interest rate of 7%. McGill intends to use the proceeds in lithium-ion battery research to increase electric motors' efficiency and output. The summary forecasts and historical information are shown in Exhibits 1 and 2. Kirk Motors expects amortization related to fair value adjustments of net assets of $16 million. So that's all the reading there is. We just have 2 exhibits now. So it's basically saying what other options are there that Kirk Motors could have taken regarding the investment. So a spinoff, this is what you do if they already owned the company. And if Kirk Motors already owned McGill and they wanted to make McGill its own operating entity, they could spin that company off. But since they're just investors, they wouldn't be able to do this. Restructuring, this is going to be restructuring how the company is run, but they're not going to be able to do this either since they are, once again, just investors. So that's going to leave them only with answer C, acquisition. Yes, they could have obviously put up the $6 billion and just acquired the whole company. But they decided to make an investment instead. All right, question 3. The effect of Kirk Motors' investment in McGill on Kirk Motors' debt to EBITDA is closest to increases the debt to EBITDA, decreases debt to EBITDA, or remains the same. So we've read all the information here. So it looks like we're just going to be using the information in Exhibits 1 and 2 to kind of figure out the debt to EBITDA ratio. And so what we're going to be doing here is it does say here, we have the summary forecast and historical information shown in Exhibits 1 and 2. And so this is going to be the year that we're going to be using, this 2017 information for both of the companies, since we're making the acquisition at the end of 2016. So we're going to be looking at how this projection, the projected for Kirk Motors changes based on the projected for McGill, and then how that affects the debt to EBITDA ratio. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll figure out the starting debt to EBITDA. So the starting debt to EBITDA is just going to be the starting debt, total debt, over that starting EBITDA number. So pulling that in, bring it over here. So we have a ratio of about a little under 0.95. So then from here, what we're going to need to do, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So because Kirk Motors is an investor, they are going to have a claim on the final cash flows down at the bottom of the income statement, or they're basically going to have a claim on the earnings of McGill. So they're going to have a claim on this net income number. And because they have a 30% interest, essentially they have a 30% claim on this net income number. But because they're investors, this net income number is going to hit Kirk Motors. It's going to hit their income statement as operating income, not at the net income level. So let's pull in some more of the answer here to see what that ends up looking like. So after we make up the investment, we're going to have EBITDA of our original of 18,272, and then we're going to add to that what we just mentioned, that 30% interest of the 591 net income. That's going to go into Kirk Motors operating income because we're investors and we didn't acquire the full company. And then that's going to give us our new EBITDA number. Our debt then is going to be the original number, and then we're adding 1.8 billion to that. And let me just show you where we pulled that number in. Let's see. So we closed on a 1.8 billion investment, and down here the transaction will be financed by debt. So that's going to increase our debt number by 1.8 billion, and this is in millions, so I wrote it down as 1,800. So that brings our debt to 1912, EBITDA to 18,449. So our new debt to EBITDA number is a little over 1, so we can see that our debt to EBITDA increased over that original 0.95 number. So we can confidently go with answer A. Question 4. The effect of Kirk Motors' investment in McGill on Kirk Motors' diluted EPS is closest to: diluted EPS will decrease, diluted EPS will remain the same, or diluted EPS will increase. So diluted EPS in this situation is just going to be our net income over the diluted shares outstanding. We don't have anything about dividends or other income-related things that we need to adjust for. So we're given that first diluted EPS number of 4.58. We can kind of see how that was calculated. So we can see it was just taken as that 11215 number over the 2450, rounded up to 4.58. So this is the number we're going to be comparing to. So basically what we need to do is figure out what impact will be on net income and what impact will be on diluted shares outstanding, and then add those to these numbers to get the new diluted EPS. So on the shares outstanding front, the key here is transaction will be financed by debt. So since we're not issuing any additional shares, that's going to mean our share count or the denominator is going to stay the same. So it's going to be 2450. So we just need to figure out what the new net income is going to be. So let's pull in the next part here to figure that out. I'm going to scroll down here so we have more room. So this is our original EPS, and then this is going to be us figuring out the new net income. So the net income that we're receiving from the acquisition is going to be 177 to our EBITDA number, and that's in millions, so 177 million. And how, just a refresher on how that was calculated, we looked at this in the last question, but we're taking that net income that we're getting from our McGill investment, and we're multiplying that by our interest in the company, which is 30%. So 30% times that 591 gives us 177 in EBITDA. Then we're going to subtract an additional 16 million out of that in amortization, and we get that from the reading right here. Kirk Motors expects amortization to be 16 million, and that gets us to our EBIT number. So then lastly, we need to subtract out the interest expense. And interest expense is going to be that debt, the 1.8 billion that we took out at 7% interest, which was given right here. 7% interest, 1.8 billion investment. So we do all that, and we're basically the bottom line net income number that we end up receiving is $35. So our ending diluted EPS number ends up being 11215 plus 35 over that same share count gives us 4.5918. So we can see it bumps the EPS number up a little bit. So we can go with answer C. So kind of a quicker way to figure this out, maybe not quicker way, you'd still have to go through the whole problem. But basically, if they're going to receive some type of positive bump in net income, we would see this diluted EPS increase since the share count's staying the same.